Like I said, we all have the same end goal in a way, right? We're all producing something and we're all like wanting to better fuel this industry for when we're done or where we're going or anything like that.
Welcome to Verify in Field, the Millwork podcast. Here's Jacob.
Welcome back, everybody, to Verify in Field. Today, I'm excited to share with you guys, we have guest Liz Ingebrigtsen with us. She is project manager at Sprovieri's Custom Counters. She is also the current year chair of the board for Architectural Woodwork Institute. And she also sits on the board for the Chicago chapter of AWI. Longtime volunteer and officer with AWI, as well as just an overall industry powerhouse. So I'm excited to have you on today with us, Liz.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
To get started, if you wouldn't mind just giving a brief background of your journey, like how did you first get started in millwork?
Yeah. So I fell into it. I graduated college in 2009, December, and it was in like the height of the recession and I could not find a job. What I went to school for, I wasn't really 100% sure that was my path in life. It just was a good route for me to take. And then I had been interviewing for, 6 months without like any opportunity for a job. And I didn't have enough experience and then too much experience on some situations. During that time, I was serving as a waitress. And one of the girls that actually worked at the restaurant with me, she was working here and was like, hey, they're looking for a front desk girl. You interested in hopping on and helping out? And I was like, why not at this point? I wasn't doing anything during the day and decided I'll give it a go and work here for a year or two and get some industry office experience to make me a more viable candidate for other job opportunities. And that was 16 years ago this May. And I always say like Sprovieris is my first big girl job. Probably end up being my last big girl job, but I kind of find a home in the industry here. And then throughout my time at Sprovieris, I moved into multiple roles here. So I wasn't at the front desk very long. I kind of moved into a lot of our residential stuff. Up into the recession, pretty much was like Sprovieris was mainly residential, custom countertops. We were doing a lot for Home Depots, the Sears program. So just your regular like chain of the mill kitchen countertops. But during that time, Sprovieris got hit hard by just the economic situation, and we decided to start rebranding ourselves and focusing on, I would say, diversifying our portfolio and then the different types of projects we wanted to work on. So we got super heavily commercial involved during that time. And as Sprovieris moved up commercially, I just like fell suit into that commercial route. So right now, Sprovieris is, just to give you some background on the company itself, we manufacture quartz, porcelain, natural stone, solid surface like Corians in our facility outside here in Chicago. We're in a 50,000 square foot facility. I would say right now we probably sit about 70 to 80% commercial. And then the remainder is still pretty much like high-end residential, small like commercial, non-union projects and stuff like that. We are a non-union shop, but being in Chicago, we do subcontract a lot of our union installs here in Chicago. So as we got busier here in this market, like I said, I just fell into the millworker side of things. And then when I started dealing with a lot of these millworkers, I just found like a home in AWI. During that time, I would still say I wasn't 100% sold that this is like the end goal for me. This is like the rest of my life at that point. But meeting these connections and like I said, with AWI specifically, like kind of gave me a home in the industry that I like felt my own person, my own entity that I was able to grow and become my own person here. And that's, I feel like, in addition with Sprovieris helping me, that's why I'm still here after 16 years, which is not usually common for, I would say, people my age and younger anymore, but.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we're about the same time. I came out of university similarly in 2010. And I was working as a server as well before I got into this industry. So a lot of parallels there. And I can relate to how you fell into this industry. And I think that's true for so many of us in millwork is really almost none of us went to school other than the Pitt State crew really probably to join this industry. But so many of us ended up here by different ways we fall into it. And you mentioned how it seemed like pretty early on AWI was instrumental in feeling like, hey, you'd found a home and maybe this was a place to build a career for. Did that start with the Chicago chapter of AWI?
Yeah. So during that time, I would say like Sprovieris, like big customers at that point were AWI members in general. Sprovieris was not an AWI national member at this time or anything like that. I started dabbling like, cause our customers at the time were like, hey, like come to this AWI event, come do this. And this was also like in the time when Chris Farrell from InterOcean was like rebranding the Chicago chapter. And we are doing a little bit more like exciting events and trying to bring in new blood rather than like, I know everybody always says it's like this old man's club at that point or old boys club at that point. So Chris Farrell was doing everything in himself to like rebrand this chapter. So he was like, come on, check this out. So as I started going to a few AWI events, he's like, why don't you come on the board and serve? And at that point, it was like a lot of like main players from Chicago. Perenni was on the board at the time. Bernhard was on the board at the time. InterOcean. We had all these like huge players that were like also, like I said, our customers. It only made sense for me to like build this relationship and this connection that like grew into something that completely out of my mind. So I have been probably serving like actively on the board of Chicago since 2014, pretty much. And I kind of ran that whole track through there. And I just actually ended my presidency role in the Chicago chapter in the end of 2025. So December end of 2025, I stepped away from that role just to step up to this new position that I took on this year for national. But yeah, so that kind of made me, especially like not being a business owner, I feel like sometimes like when you think of yourself, like I don't want to say you ever get lost in the shuffle, but it made me feel important in the industry, like outside Sprovieris. When I like look at it, we're like, Liz is an important person. So it gave me like some self-gratification that I was looking for. And then as well, allowed me to create connections and learning situations that I probably wouldn't have been open to or been aware of. And it's like funny to think, because I always say this, I'm a countertop fabricator. I'm not like producing millwork every day, right? I'm not a run of the mill shop. We still fall under like the AWI like group of stuff. So it's given me like a lot of perspective being like an outside position, looking in at it from this way and just like the differences in some of like various associations and how people work with each other on that. But, in the hindsight, like we're all like doing the same end goal. We're like integral, like parts of these like millwork jobs and a part of the process and everything. So like I said, I just found my home there and I found and connected with people. It's funny to think that like these people that like I serve with and to do better and try to like bring in the next generation, like these people become my friends. So it's not just like we're like customers and this and that. Like these are people I can rely on. I trust in the industry. I know the type of work they're doing. And like we all have the same end goal to like better our industry we're in and like to bring in the next workforce to help do that. So that's like where like my niche came into play with that. So
yeah, no, that's definitely a long tenure. And I think what's interesting about you from my perspective and what I'm hoping the people listening will gain from this is one, a lot of people don't really understand what AWI is outside of the standards.
Yeah.
Most people in our industry still only know AWI as the standard and they don't understand what is it outside of that.
Yeah.
And I think that the chapters like Chicago, Great Lakes, there are certain chapters that are extremely integral in their local area as well as at the national level for what you just described as getting people outside of just their own four walls of their company and at large networking with the industry. But two is I think you are a great example because we do have a lot of people on the board or the chair that are very involved. Most people think it's just owners or it's just generational like families owners, because there are a lot of owners that are, hey, they've grown up in this industry, they've come into the business as a child, their father was in the industry, and you are none of those things, right? You kind of fell into this industry through your own merit, right? Worked your way up, and you're also not a business owner, you're not a millwork shop fabricator, right? And so I think all of those things are very interesting to have you as the chair, because I think it breaks a lot of the stereotypes people have about our industry, about AWI specifically. Yeah. Have you found that, obviously you've mentioned how welcoming you felt from the get-go getting involved with AWI and how it made you feel like your place, these people are your friends, but have you found those stereotypes to be something you've had to break through, or that it's more just something that doesn't really exist in reality, is only in people's heads?
And like when I look at AWI today, like in general, I feel like those stereotypes are out the doors. I feel like when we talk about like some generational people, like I feel like there are some things, but in reality, like we're all doing the same thing, right? Yeah, we might be doing things a little bit different. But I think this new generation or people our age, let's say, like we're really like breaking down those barriers, because I think we're relying on a lot of other mill workers to price it the same way we're pricing it and to be doing the same expectation of quality and stuff like that. I feel like we have to like have some relationship and standards with these people to make sure that everyone's like on the same page of what product is being needed by the architects and everything. I feel like the stereotype is honestly like almost gone. I mean, there's always going to be a little bit out there, but I feel like just in this generation, I think a lot of things have changed. And then AWI is a standards development organization. So the standards are like our bread and butter. They're the heart of the organization. But there's so many more other member benefits that people don't realize that fall into it. I came into the niche of like the chapters and the network and some of that stuff just based on because the standards don't necessarily technically all apply to the countertops, right? It's a one section that I have to follow, but there's no testing for that at the current juncture. So that's not one of the like full needs we needed from AWI at that point. So we as Sprovieris found a home with some of these other member benefits that they have. And I've honestly used those to our advantage and our benefit of what we need here in the shop.
Yeah. Yeah, and I found there's other similar members starting to get involved. Like I know Great Lakes Stainless is very involved in the Great Lakes chapter, and they're, again, not a traditional manufacturer, a millwork manufacturer. Yeah. They do stainless steel and things like that. And that is an aspect that I think a lot of people who maybe haven't attended the conferences or gotten involved in the chapters don't realize that AWI is a lot more, one, than just millworkers, and two, a lot more than just standards. Can you talk a little bit about, so, you step into in 2026, you were a member of the board, and now you're the chair of the board. Every year, AWI chooses or elects a new chair. Can you talk about the role of the chair of the board? What does that actually entail, and how are you and how does each chair kind of leave a meaningful impact with just a year of time?
So AWI is, I don't want to say governed, like the board is governed by like a strategic plan. So every 3 years we're setting a strategic plan. So it's great to see that in a way, because as a chair, you're not just coming in and going array like one way and be like, I like want to do this, or this is what I'm passionate about, which is what everybody else is passionate about. So we're pretty much governed by the strategic plan. And actually we're in the process of getting started for a new one for the next 3 years, starting in 2027. So as the chair, you're pretty much a spokesperson like for the board at that point. I have no like given decisions. Like we are a wholesome board and we vote and anything like decision wide moving forward, but we're running the meetings. We're keeping agendas set. We're looking at big picture items that fall in line with our strategic plan to see like where the future of the association is going to go and where the board is potentially going to help spend time, money, effort in different like tasks and obligations at that point. But it's crazy to see this because the Chicago chapter board is very like an operational board, and then moving into this national board, it's very strategic. So we don't really have much to do with day-to-day operations of the actual association. That's where staff all come into play. But we really get to set and drive the future of where this organization's going to be. And it's even more fun to see in a way because it's at the end of 2026, my board service is over at this national level, at that level, I would say. So it's encouraging to be a part of like what the next 3 to 6 years are going to look like for our association, even though I might not be in the driving seat for it. So the chair is also responsible for a lot of the committees that AWI has. And we're just like I would say trying to keep the wheel going and keeping all the squeaks out and everything. So we're just trying to keep the association going forward and future oriented and at least the committee level, then solving some like of our day-to-day tasks and stuff like that need to get done outside of staff.
Okay. No, I think that's good to clarify because I think one, most people that have been involved in AWI understand the chair exists. Yeah. And for a lot of us, it's just, hey, we see the crowning of the new person at national, and then we see the kind of the changing of hands at the next national, right? But not a lot of people understand the work that happens in between those stages and all that you guys do. And obviously it is, like you said, executing an already established vision that you've probably been a part of forming that in the board previously. Yes. And for you in particular, this is very much a bookend to your time on the board, it sounds like, which I'm sure is very fulfilling. But there is a portion of it that I imagine you are leaving a little bit of because before you was Whitney. So one, there again, with 2 women back to back, which a lot of people maybe don't realize, hey, there is a lot more diversity today probably than there was 10, 20, 30 years ago, which I think is exciting to see. 2, you are a millennial, which I think is also, which we had previously, Dustin 2 or 3 years ago, another millennial. It's exciting to me to see how AWI and our industry is evolving with the times, and it's not just sitting stagnant with what I think a lot of people see our industry as being.
When we search for new board members, there's a nominating committee that go out and vet some people and stuff, and there's direct like goals that like we want to serve the board. A lot of it, if there's like special tasks going on, some of the people that like come on the board could be like for a special task like that we have, that we might have, like this person might have more experience or something like that. So it's very like, I don't want to say calculated, but it's very like direct, right? Like we are trying to fulfill certain things for certain people. And Not that like women's ever been like a thing of that, but just when you were talking about like Great Lakes Stainless, like Michael DeBron just entered the board this year. This is his first year serving on the board starting in January. So like AWI is like super aware of the evolving industry and then making sure people are represented when they need to be represented at different levels as well. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Yes. No, and I think that's what's exciting is it's like you said, it is not like AWI set out to say, hey, we're going to make sure we have this certain representation, but I think it is truly representative. And two, I hope it's encouraging to those who maybe think that, oh, there's not a place for me at that table because I'm not X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is the case. And hopefully the track record and you being here shows that, hey, you're a project manager that started at a countertop company, not even a millwork manufacturer.
At the front desk.
Yes. That's what I think is exciting is to hear there's so many unique stories like that in our industry that we are very much merit-based. And I think there's a place for everybody at the table. And that's what's exciting to me to see.
Agree. Like I said, we all have the same end goal in a way, right? We're all producing something and we're all like wanting to better fuel this industry for when we're done or where we're going or anything like that.
Yeah. Outside of AWI, how has your time, you've now been, you said 15 or 16 years now in the industry with your time at Sprovieris. What has evolved since then, either through your involvement with AWI? You mentioned now you guys have branched more into commercial and diversified your portfolio, but is there anything else that through your time in the industry you feel like has evolved with Sprovieris specifically?
I just think like the caliber and quality of work when we were doing residential stuff like that, like tolerances are a little bit different, like expectations, quality, drawings, and everything like that. As we like got more involved commercially, like we really had to refocus on like the size of projects we could take on because like producing 5 kitchens that are easy, straight run of the mill items. So we really had to focus pretty much on, I don't want to say rebranding everything we did, but just refocusing on, detailed drawings and like the information the shop needs on the floor. We really had to look at production on some of these bigger jobs we were going after. In that move, like it was like there was just a lot of learning curves at that point of even like going to like bigger size projects and how big of a project we can handle at that time and just like figuring out production and stuff like that. It became like a completely different ball game, I think, at that point. Not that like we just went from like 0 to 100 right away, but just like in the process. And with Sprovieri looking at it, we've been very fortunate that a lot of the people that are here have been here for a long time and that we all grew together here with this. So now we've got this own like setup of like how things go, but we've had a critical team here that's helped us like in that transitional process to get to where we are today.
Awesome. And obviously through AWI, you've had been able to see what both your client base, a lot of your clients are the types of members that are at AWI, and has the exposure you've gotten to that or the relationships you've built driven or steered kind of your guys' direction with Sprovieris of, I imagine somewhat of, hey, we're going to branch into commercial and now we're able to see firsthand what our clients are needing or what they're going, because the products we do in millwork, I think, have consistently evolved and if anything expanded. And a lot of times I know from the millwork side, we're contracting the stone, we're contracting that, but we're going to somebody like Sprovieris to actually fulfill that. And so there is a partnership and a relationship that's built there for the millworkers to be able to say, hey, we're going to get this, but we know we're going to rely on Sprovieris to fulfill it. Have you been able to bring anything back with you from your time with the millwork manufacturers to drive and steer things you do at Sprovieris?
Yeah, I would even say like in this last 5 years, architects are challenging us more and more every day, right? We're still figuring out new things and how to fabricate things differently. And you know what I'm saying? We're not, custom isn't our name. We're Sprovieris Custom Counters. So like we have a hard time saying no to something that's out there. I feel like that's why people come to us, because we're not, like I said, we're not just doing regular countertops every day. We're doing like the cladding and the radiuses and lots of thermoforming and different capabilities that maybe other shops or smaller shops might not have the ability to do. So I feel like with that said, yeah, we always, like our relationships with our millworkers, like it's a relationship together where we're engineering this together. We're working together. We're not just saying this is going to work. We're like in that initial process of saying, let's do it like this. Let's work like this. Let's do this. Let's figure out this. So we can both present an end goal that's like acceptable for the architect, for the end user, for our millworker at that point, for the GC at that point. We're 5 down at this point. I feel like people know to come to us when we need to work out and get a solution on something that's super complex like that, if that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that stands out to you that you've seen that has changed significantly in your time in this industry, whether it be technology or workforce or standards? Like what has been the biggest change you've seen?
it just seems to be like the one thing that I've focused on, especially like here in the Chicago market. I feel like workforce is always an issue, about how, I guess when we sit in these career paths or career fairs at some of these high schools, and it's just like a two-sided sword at that point. You want to get people in the industry. We need to create the jobs for them. We need to make them like appealable to them. So it's really just like getting people in. Our workforce here at Sprovieris might be a little bit different, but it's just making the industry like more appealable to everybody. And like you said in the beginning of our conversation, this is my livelihood at this point. Like it's a valuable, like a livelihood I can support myself and my family on. My husband's in this industry as well. So just making sure that we're breaking that wall there for people to enter the industry or understand like that there is opportunity for good paying jobs and like an end goal in this industry. And I still feel, at least when I struggle, like when I think of it internally, like not everyone's supposed to be on this like college track. And I think like when looking at my little kids, that's like something that like, not that I don't think college is important. I went to school, but in the hindsight of my brain, I kind of ended up in this. And did my degree really need to get me to where I am today? I don't know at this point, but I just want to let people know. And what I guess like I focus on is like that people can be aware that like we have a lot of opportunity and it's not like a straight path where a 4-year degree is required or this or that at that point, but really just like opening the door about our industry and letting people choose which college might be a part of the industry if you're going down a certain path in our industry, but just have the opportunity and be aware of the opportunity at that point. And not just like laborers at that point, just with the CAD and technology. And you can speak to some of this, just like all the opportunities we have and just making sure it looks comparable and fair to other trades and organizations out there. So we are still attracting people and have the opportunity to keep manufacturing here in the United States too.
Yeah. On that note, what can we be doing differently today to engage young people that we haven't done in the past? I know AWI is always doing a lot of work on this front. We've got industry solutions in education and a lot of investment in scholarships. But as an industry, just those of us that are in industry, what can we be doing or what do you think we could be doing better?
Yeah, talking about it more, right, to people that are not in our industry. I don't even know personally if I feel like it falls on the teachers as much anymore. I feel like the teachers always push college anyways, but like we have to be speaking to like parents, you know what I'm saying? Like parents, and that is like, because I mean, if you're a 16-year-old kid and your parents says you have to go to college and they're going to pay for you to go to college, like you're most likely going to go to college. I feel like that's the norm of some of these situations. At least that's what happened with me. My parents were like, you're going to college. This is your option at this point. So I feel like just like the conversation about it, we can get into schools, like, and we can get into in front of kids when we're in the career fairs. If we get like 1 or 2 kids interested in the industry, I feel like that's a win for the day. But I feel like it just starts with the conversation and just like letting people know, like, I think even like when we look at the design solutions magazines, we have all these wow projects in it. Like people don't realize like millwork or like cabinet making, like that gives you this end result. So I think just like connecting the dots to the people hopefully will eventually give that opportunity or awareness of it from people outside of our industry at that point.
What if you were to give advice to young professionals themselves, or like thinking back to like when you first got it or were considering, hey, your friend said, hey, why don't you come work at Sprovieris? Speaking to that type of young person, what advice would you give? Or even you were working at Sprovieris, but there were some pivotal moments, I'm sure, where you could have said, hey, this isn't for me, I'm going to go elsewhere. But you dove in and you said, hey, no, I think this is a place for me. How can those who are at that junction point figure out like, hey, how do I make a home in millwork?
What's a turnover for these younger kids being at a company now every 2 years?
Yes.
Give it a 2-year try. No, I just feel I guess like I'm in a solid surface shop. It's a dusty, my shoes are wrecked every time I leave and go home. But I just hope that like when we're looking for people like here at Sprovieris or anyone in our industry, that a lot of these companies we're not like billion-dollar organizations, right? We're family-owned companies and they feel the love and they feel like a sense of security. And it would be great to see a lot of these people like stay at companies long-term now with these like turnovers, or you have to make whatever to every 2 years to get a better pay raise or something like that. But I look at this like a two-way street. They're taking care of me, I'm taking care of them. Like I know that like my path here, not that anyone's job is ever secure, but I feel comfort in knowing the fact that like what I'm doing every day in our relationship that we have here, that this is a long-term situation for me. In regards to like speaking to the generation, I just feel like I said, and I just will go back to kind of what I said earlier, like finding a home like really drives like people staying somewhere, and like obviously taking care of your employees and vice versa, back and forth. But finding a home in a small company, because I knew one thing out of college, like I didn't want to go to a big corporation and just be like a one person in it. So I think there are still people out there like that. That's overwhelming to me. I don't live in that type of world in my brain. So I feel like finding the right person, and it would only make sense for them to stay in the industry then at that point. But we have to do our like due diligence to keep them here as well.
Yeah. No, I think that you're a great example of one, the opportunity that exists, but if you're willing to put in the time and put in the work as well. And I think that you have, one, not let, hey, I'm at a solid surface or a countertop company that, maybe was residential based and has expanded, limit your career trajectory. Two, you have not let, hey, I'm not really in the millwork manufacturing proper, but I want to get involved in this organization and I see opportunity there, hold you back. And two, you've not let, say, I'm not the owner of Sprovieri, so it's not my role to be doing this. I think that I see so much opportunity in our industry that if young professionals just take kind of the ownership and the steering wheel a little bit of say, okay, I see that opportunity, I'm going to seek that and do the work to take advantage of it. I think there is so much there for those who want to really dive in. And I understand the apprehension of fear of young people of like, what if I put all the work and time into this industry and it doesn't work out or amount to what it is? But what if you did?
Yeah.
And I see there's so many opportunities from project management, project executive, estimating and sales, to engineering, to production. Yeah. If you're willing to put in the time and you're willing to commit and really learn, I think that there is so much opportunity to really make both a high earning potential, but a fulfilling career here where you have an impact.
When I look at it in hindsight, so my husband works at Sprovieris as well. I met him through here. So now I go to, well, I'm not here every day in the office, but when I am here, I work with my husband. So it's my life at this point. I eat and breathe it. So it's hard to picture something different. But it's also hard to picture my life not like this at this point either. So it's a blessing. And I just hope like anybody like looking for a job, just find something that like, and I know not everything is end goal, right? We're at certain positions for certain times at certain points in our life. And I understand that. And people do need to grow and have opportunities and stuff like that. But I just like hope that people, especially like I said, exactly what you said, I'm not a business owner. This wasn't my career path. I started at the front desk making not a lot of money like at that time. It was in the middle of a recession. I was still living at home with my parents, and to like look in hindsight of where I am today, like it'd be so like wonderful to see your future path and all the opportunities that like arose by me sticking it out at that point too.
Yeah. Looking to the future, what do you see changing in our industry over the next 5 to 10 years?
What do I see changing in an industry to the next 5 to 10 years? Just I keep on wanting to go off that like workforce thing. Still feel like we're going to still have a lot younger people coming in. We're going to have to really and not like our baby boomers are almost out, but we're really going to have to still cater to this younger generation. And I think that's going to be a learning curve for a lot of these companies that have generational and things like that. But we're really going to have to continue to work to get people into the industry and change maybe how we do things. I know we just like always say like the general, like how we communicate, it's going to be a different world. And I already see it's like a different world, like in general with us. People don't pick up the phone as much as they do. Everyone's like heavily relying on email and stuff like that. And just making sure like we continue, I don't want to say cater, but continue to like encourage and foster that. The last thing I would ever want to see is like a company, just because you can't have employees like, or they all age out at that point, that the company's not sustainable at that point. So I really do think it's still going to be a learning curve. As I always feel like I'm the young one in the room, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be approaching 40 in a couple of years. I'm not the young one in the room anymore. So just having that mentality of what we have to do as like an association, as companies, to make sure we are fulfilling the needs of some of these younger kids coming into our industry with no knowledge to our industry as well.
On the flip side of that, what do you think will always stay the same?
I feel always stay the same as like the quality of work. I feel like what we're doing like on a day-to-day, like there's an expectation of what all of our companies have to like present out there and as finished product in the world. So no matter who's coming in, like the expectation of the end result is still going to be the same. So I feel like no matter how we're changing things like internally, maybe our output is still going to be very much almost the same, depending on what's required at that time. But it's not gonna change like the output of what our companies are producing or how we're producing stuff. It's just a matter of getting people to get to that same speed as well.
Awesome. Liz, thank you so much for taking time to share your story with us. And thank you for your service and the work you do at AWI. For our
you as
industry.
well.
And yeah, look forward to seeing all the work you do the rest of this year as chair. If there's anything else, if anybody's interested in finding out more about AWI or Sprovieris or just reaching out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So if you're interested in finding anything about AWI, AWInet.org is AWI's website. You can check out from there. If you are a member, I say check out like all the member benefits when you log in and access the learning platform we have with videos for education or training new people for onboarding. There's so many opportunities, like we mentioned, outside the standard. So I really say dive into the website from there. If you're interested in checking out anything Sprovieris, you can reach Sprovieris at sprovieris.com. Contact me in the office, LinkedIn, any way like that is fine.
Awesome. Thank you again, Liz, and I look forward to seeing you at the next conference.
Yep. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify in Field.